Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Upper left hand corner we have White starting as the blue Protoss. Bottom right hand corner we got Kiko starting as the red Terran. This is going to be on Deja Vu. The series is tied 1 apiece, and this is round robin group 1. Honestly, this is a very strong pairing to be starting off with. This is Deja Vu. We've got the cool Metroid-like symbol in the middle for some reason. But otherwise it is, I feel like a lot of the maps actually this season work like this a little bit, where you have, go ahead and do a map reveal again here, where you have the natural expansion, you know, standard third nearby, but then just the way the artifacts work on the map, it makes it a little bit challenging after the initial 3 bases are established, where it's like more of a wide, I guess there's some artifacts in this compared to other maps, compared to like say Retro, but it feels like there's a lot of 4 base quadrant maps. By the way, out into Twitch streamline, the stream land. Wow, can't talk. Still getting back to the on the commentator feel. Still working on getting back in shape here. Anyway, as he coughed into the mic, I went back and actually checked some PvT games just to make sure at the top level that I wasn't completely, a little bit rusty now, but I'll get back to it pretty rapidly. I always do. By the time I get to next game, this will all be smoothed out, and then I will just be forgetting to update the score and things like that. That's all. I'll get back to the standard errors instead of the overt ones. I went back and checked just to make sure I wasn't going crazy as far as what the timing of Protoss versus Terran these days. But yeah, I think it doesn't seem like White is wanting to engage in the early aggressive game. Instead, he has just relegated himself primarily up to this stage to just going 1 gate into cybernetic score, into range, and just playing the game from there. The thing with that is against other players, I'm not sure I've seen Kiko go vulture drop before, but the thing is just getting that initial vulture out, it mitigates a lot of things like Dark Templar. You have mines on the map, so you can start seeing shuttles if they're coming out, but it also opens up a lot of things where Protoss doesn't have a lot of vision until that initial observer's out on the map. Kiko, by the way, scouting bottom left-hand corner. But anyway, from there, the standard thing I've seen at least the higher levels of play, and I mean higher levels like Korean professionals, is usually a gateway flood anywhere between the 9 to 12 minute mark of usually 9 gateways. To have just a bulk of troops in the mid game to either one, to survive any sort of Terran push, but 2, to potentially hinder a third if they're moving out. And actually we saw that, I'll say, hopefully this isn't a spoiler for anybody, but if you go back and watch ASL, Scan was actually exploiting the advantage where he had a really easily defendable position. By the way, White able to sneak the scout in. Lost track of the probe myself, but is going to lose it, but he's going to see that factory and initial 2 Marines, so that should give him at least the intel that it's going to be 3 Marine to start. Meantime, Kiko's starting top right. He's going to get last scout, which is unfortunate. But fortunately for him, it's not like it's cross-map Nexus first. He is going to be denied additional scouting information. And ooh, that being denied the initial scouting information might be problematic, as we have a Citadel of Adun getting dropped immediately after initial Dragoon. And we'll see if, so being able to dispatch this initial SCV will be fairly important, because if there's just the Dragoon sitting there, if it's just a Dragoon sitting there, oh, and look at this, White is actually pulling out. The thing though is this Dragoon needs to deal with this SCV. This SCV can hang around for quite some time. Now don't attack, Kiko, back out. You actually want to keep this alive and keep it hovering for quite some time, because he can just leave it out here and stall it out a little bit. Looks like a vulture is making its way out on the map. We have 2 Dragoons out here, but if he just like goes into the darkness and then finds an additional scouting pattern, it looks like, yeah, so this vulture, this is actually a big loss for Kiko, particularly going against vulture first, and he didn't turn the SCV around, so I wonder if that was a bit of a missed opportunity. It looks like he's starting to make his way in now, so might be able to get the scout with the turnaround. But White being overly aggressive now, we've still got 4 Marines, looks like a 5th Marine getting added. Are we gonna see some follow-up progression with that vulture and mines not upgraded, but going to see 2 gateways, but critically needs to get that upper left-hand corner. And this is going to be, Kiko might be distracted as this is happening. So he's peeled the SCV off. And unfortunately, he's still not yet scouted because he's being distracted by these Dragoons on the front. Still hasn't scouted The Citadel of Adun and the Templar Archives yet, I don't believe. I just got rid of both players' visions to the player's vision I was looking for. So yeah, here he still hasn't scouted upper left to know that Dark Templar are on the way. In the meantime, both players engaging a little bit of attack on the front. White doing a great job actually getting rid of all of the Marines. SCV's being pulled off the line, which is going to cost a little bit of mining. We do have a siege tank now out in the field, and let's see if Kiko gets the follow-up because the Dark Templar are on their way. Looks like White feeling a little bit of pressure of the situation, and instead of queuing up one apiece is queued. Okay, now he's queued up that second, accidentally queued up two within the same gateway. But in the meantime, mines are not out, a vulture's not on the field, and there's no lack of detection. However, Kiko now sees it, attacks the Templar Archives just to indicate that he in fact does see it. And if he can get, okay, he's going for the engineering bay. This is cross spawn, so there's a lot of space to work with here. And you can see supply depots, additional walls, things going out. This should give Kiko an early economic lead. And I think he's moving out with some troops to potentially offer them up against the initial Dark Templar, potentially, in order to create a bit of delay here to buy himself some time. I think that is the ploy here, and to maybe spot the shimmer. So he sees the shimmer, actually hits a little bit right there, and we have, look at this beautiful path that Kiko created. He's like, yes, come into my base right here. No problem, just have all these mines along the way, and does lose some Marines, but honestly I think this is wise and worth it because it delays out the timing, and that's going to allow that second, and you can see that initial Dark Templar dispatch, and that provides timing to get additional mines down, also the turrets up. So Kiko with I like that kind of just offered path. The siege tank should turn around at this stage. Yeah, runaway siege tank now. You don't want to offer yourself here. Yeah, now trying to peel away from that corner. This Dark Templar taken out, but at the end of all this, this is a much later natural expansion for White. A little bit of a press and tech, but what White can do immediately, you can see the probe already out there, is very quickly drop this third, and he doesn't have to worry about the counter pressure from Kiko in regards to that third. And this is kind of an opportunity, honestly, with a little bit of the economic boon that he's had. I guess he didn't already go for an armory, but I'm wondering if this was one of those scenarios where upgrade Terran might be a little bit more feasible. I lost my train of thought. I was going to... Oh, no, never mind. He's going to go up to a very early... So we're going to see some mid-game pressure here from Kiko, because he's not going up to 4 factories. Actually, never mind. It's just there's so much shenanigans that happened in the early game that I lost track of the time. It is around 7 minutes with the natural expansion up and not a lot of destruction. Going to go up to the 4 factory count. Usually between 4 and 6 is the count we see for the surge from Terran, to get a decent unit count out to basically go grab that third a little bit sooner than later. And again, this is kind of what the standard is these days, is kind of checking out what the Protoss is doing, a surge of troops both directions. It looks like there hasn't been a second. Usually Protoss will sit on four gateways for quite a long period of time. Looks like a probe is going to get wiped out. That third is confirmed. Not a lot else happening in the midst of this. A comsat dropped, does get the Dark Templar, and a single mine dropped. Just to, so keep one nice thing about this is because so it's fast arbiter, but there's also a lack of robo, which means these mines are going to be able to provide all the more vision, and we are going to see a lot more vultures on the field with, well, I was going to say 3 factories pumping, but it looks like a second machine shop is getting dropped, which is pretty standard actually. But Kiko needs to start utilizing that advantage fairly rapidly, because right now his mine coverage is not the best. He has mines up in his base currently to deal with. He's got a few units right here, but I'm expecting that to change fairly rapidly, and we'll see if the mines go a little bit more defensively. Right now the supply leads slightly in White's favor, which is to be expected here, but Kiko already getting that third up pretty quickly, and this is before that the 4 gateway spread has been planted. And I do like what Kiko's doing, where he's shoring up the base. White actually offering up, so he doesn't have an observer, so offering up a probe to try to get some information and getting absolutely nothing. So I will say Kiko not fully utilizing the lack of information on White's side of the map. I'm not sure if he comsatted and is seeing this early arbiter. We aren't seeing, and I think he's not, because usually if you see an earlier arbiter like this, you do want a faster science vessel. The turrets should be fine in the meantime, but keep in mind it becomes like almost Overlord sniping style, where if you can pick out a turret, especially at this very exposed third, if you take the one turret down, all of a sudden detection's down, and it's just comsats that have to win the battle, and there is limited comsat potentially available for Kiko. You got 4 comsats and that's it, and There's a lot of room for engagement and disengagement and things to go awry. Stasis also upgrading. So a good stasis and a little bit of comsat dodging, and it could be trouble in the mid game depending on how White wants to play it. Some more Dark Templar spotted. Honestly, just seeing the amount of Dark Templar that are being produced, I might think about going to it's a little bit atypical. Looks like a starport is being built. I might even go for an earlier starport, just period, if I was Kiko looking at this. We are now seeing the 10-minute gateway flood. So this is a little, this is a little bit more what I'm expecting. Let's see how many gateways get produced. Right now we're sitting at 7. 9 is I think more typical, 8 or 9. Okay, we do have an 8th right at the natural expansion that I had not seen prior. So 8, a pretty solid count here for the mid game, and then you're just going to see a bunch of units pumped out of this. And we are going to have 2 arbiters behind this, so this is going to be a pretty decent attack force in a minute or two. But Kiko going to try to rely on just some of the map features here and sufficient siege tanks to kind of deal with the difference. Right now the siege tank count, this has kind of become the thing in the mid game as well, where the siege tank count ends up lower because of later siege tech and more early vulture action. It looks like we do have a 5th factory getting added on. We have the additional mines out on the rest of the map, and finally some observers making their way out to clear a little bit of the mineage, for lack of a better term. The mineage, you usually think of minerals, right? But here in this instance, maybe I should say spiderage. That just doesn't roll off the tongue in the same way. But White is thinking about going ahead and positioning himself potentially to grab a 4th. He's got an observer moving out. I think he could probably grab a 4th and a 5th. Oftentimes this is the big challenge in Brood War, particularly in this era, is just having a good sense of the game state. We also have Maelstrom upgrading, of all things. Kind of an odd. Do we have a Dark Archon being morphed? That would be rather odd. I think that must have been a misclick. Hopefully that was canceled, because not super useful in this matchup. We do have Recall being upgraded in the meantime as well. And yeah, just things being cleared out. I think White just trying to get a little bit more territory, put his opponent in the dart, especially because, and I like this actually in particular, given the current meta, it just kind of patrolling out in the map, trying to reduce that vision, because again, now you have that standard surge from Protoss these days where it's like a 40 supply lead right this second, a significant supply lead, and usually you're looking for an opportunity to utilize that army and kind of crash it somewhere on a vulnerable piece of real estate. But in order to do that, you need to find where the Terran army is not established, and that means making sure they don't know where your army's headed. By the way, missed this, we got a drop ship. Dark Templar sees it. With a siege tank gonna make its way up to the 9 o'clock location. Additional pylon getting dropped. We do have the Arbiter making its way that direction to cloak all the units and very likely mitigate this drop. And Vulture's doing a really good job of just continually mining these areas and being an annoyance. So good job with the annoying things. Sorry for the mic. There's an alarm set that just went off here in the background. Probe making its way out, wants to grab that 4th, but a Vulture sitting there, that's going to delay that 4th considerably. Now the drop going into the 9 o'clock location, but surprise, it was a trap, just like the minefields earlier. Very quickly cleaned up. A single Vulture looks like it is going to make its way in the main. By the way, we have a huge amount of gateways here. Probe going to try to defend itself alongside with the Arbiter. The Zealot's going the wrong direction. Okay, now they're marching back, and not much being accomplished. It looks like the pylon that was dropped preventatively bottom left-hand corner is going to get cleaned up as well. The Probe has not made its way out to grab a 4th just yet. And White, with the big, large army, isn't really attacking into or surrounding Kiko's territory right now, just trying to clean up territory of his own. So I think he's more focusing on just survival mode. In the meantime, Kiko is tacking on those additional bases. He's got the one armory that's been humming. Don't see a science vessel out as of yet. Looks like the Goliaths are going to be the primary anti-arbiter play right this second, which is unusual actually, considering was it game one? Game one, where there is a plethora, a smorgasbord of science vessels that were out on the field to deal with arbiters and High Templar and the ilk. Got to throw in all sorts of fun words there. Triple machine shop is up to keep that siege tank count healthy, and some turrets are being laid to deal, and we already have mines out in the backfield just to deal with the potential arbiter recall. I get more the impression that this pocket right here would be a little bit more vulnerable overall. probe making its way out on the map. Kind of, so we got a probe here at the 1 o'clock, and we got another probe marching its way across. The Dark Templar are going to try to make its way around. Sees the Vulture right there, but it's going to pull out otherwise. And another pick off here at the 1 o'clock, but the Nexus does drop. And so that should get cleared up. And White, so he did a really good job of getting the Worker Surge. He did a good job macro. He's actually maxed out. He's got an okay bank, but usually at equalized bases over time, Terran does win. So the delays on this base are significant. We also have the problem for Kiko opposite side, where, okay, you've got +2 weapons, +1 armor on the way. You've been sitting in your base for quite some time, +1 armor just finishing, by the way, as I was talking about it. Now you got to start thinking about making your way out of your pocketed quadrant, and you've got a big army out there, and Arbiters looks like they are taking okay, I was gonna say was able to take down the mines without taking a lot of damage, but it looks like they are taking damage here and there. And Kiko's starting to siege up, but he doesn't just need to siege up. He needs to siege up and either wipe out this army or siege up and move out and get some territory without taking significant losses. Kiko doing a great job, though, of sneaking across with a Vulture attack force to potentially grab a number of workers as they're scooting across. And also this helps keep eyes on that big bulk army or see reinforcements if they're making their way across. So is already in position to shut that fourth down or at least delay that fourth. White going ahead and trying to clear out some territory bottom left as well in the meantime. Kiko sending out a few exploratory Goliaths to kind of spot things. The worker transfer was there, but the worker transfer a little bit late. I'm always curious how Terrans just these days have been very, very skilled about getting the Vultures there in the exact amount of time. More Vultures scooting their way forward. Wondering how they know, or they have the instincts to just know, okay, the probes are going to make their way now. This is when the Protoss is going to have the sense to make its way across. So they do a great job of assassinating worker lines as a result. But anyway, these Arbiters are full of energy, by the way. Full of pep. And we got another Nexus dropping bottom left. A few Vultures trying to make their way that direction. A probe is going to be able to escape their eyes. One problem for White is he has a gigantic army, but he doesn't have great positional spread right this second. And, but advantageously for him, Kiko is at max supply and has made absolutely no moves to grab a fourth base. And seems more interested in capping White's base. That could be a tactical decision on Kiko's part. Man, that's a lot of siege tanks. Where he's thinking like, you know what, you've been sitting on 3 bases forever. I'm happy to go ahead and go for exchanges out in the field and bleed you out. But I feel like there's a large enough bank both directions that White, if he engages well, could definitely negate that. And especially, where's the third Arbiter? We got 2 Arbiters out in the field. There's enough stasis there to really neutralize this, especially as it's just moving out. So these 2 science vessels are going to be key in this fight. They really need to land the EMPs on the Arbiters in particular to make sure the bulk of this army that's going to be very heavily bunched up does not get stasised. And we'll see how White decides to approach this. He's got the Observer flooding its way forward. This is going to be a really important fight at this stage. This is either going to shut down Kiko's fourth and allow that 1 o'clock and that bottom left-hand base to continue mining effectively, could open up a fourth base for Kiko, or could be the shifting point in the game right here. White transitioning around. What would actually be interesting is a recall right on top of this army as well. Level 2 weapons, level 1 armor, by the way, versus level 1 armor, level 1 weapons. Kiko not liking what he sees, so he's going to go ahead and drift right back out, and this is where his mind's actually working a little bit against him. Pylon blockading here, and Kiko's still not grabbing a fourth. So we're 18 minutes in. There's the recall into the main. Missed it. Able to sneak all the way across. The siege tank scrambling. Is there going to be a stasis on the ramp as well? That would be the piece de resistance. Looks like there was a follow-up EMP that cleared out the rest of the energy. So able to kill some SCVs. The space is mostly mined out. Not able to get on top of the factories. Not able to pick off the armory. So this looks like it might just be more of an army expenditure on White's part. Although it's trading decently well because of just the collapse. Look at all this mech having trouble making its way across. This is also an opportunity for White with the rest of that army to make his way back across. We have some mines and a siege tank making their way bottom left as well. This is actually a really clever maneuver here from Kiko. Just move that siege tank. Okay, we had the recall. You know your unit's out of position. So let's draw the rest of the troops with just a small army to the left and then press right back into the middle so we don't lose a lot. But problem for Kiko here is he had that recall dealt with. The main is basically mined out. He still hasn't grabbed a fourth, and white has now had those 2 additional operational bases for quite some time, and it's really showing in the size of the leftover bank. On top of that, we have additional stuff. We have the follow-up guerrilla warfare being built top right. I think Kiko at this stage might be thinking, okay, it's now or never. Maybe we just go for... It looks like he's maneuvering to the bottom left. The thing is, bottom left can get sacrificed, especially with potential recalls and pokes. I guess we don't have an arbiter on the field to really press that. I don't know that white really wants to attack here. You can generally attack any direction where the Terran army isn't in bulk, although this is going to be high ground to low ground and tanks that are not yet sieged. So white pressing into this forward defense matrix. And white is still diving into it. A big EMP on that army to soften it up as well. And white just donating a lot of the troops. Some vultures and an SCV have managed to make their way top right as well. So white losing a bulk of that army. I don't think he's going to be able to save. So this is where Kiko can just leave 3 tanks, clear the rest of this up, and make his way across the map, just maybe stream up the left-hand side, let these 2 vultures kill anything that's coming out of the gateway, and go from there. It looks like he is moving a large army top right instead. Still hasn't grabbed a 4th base by the way, so he's working off the baseline resources he's got right this second. Which means white, as long as he maintains 1 o'clock and reestablishes some bases where Kiko's not, can throw some of these armies at his opponent. So, although not doing a great job making it through that actually doing a decent job getting through that minefield. So now making his way bottom right, the Zealots trying to peel their way through that wall. Some Dark Templar and Zealots getting cleaned up here top right. This army is not moving. As I say that, it unsieges and begins to move. Go figure, but it looks like white not going to be able to break through, just not enough Zealots to clear out that 3 o'clock location. But even the threat is pretty significant. But the problem for white now is that top right-hand base is getting built, and these gateways are getting cleared out, and that's going to, if Kiko establishes that, and it looks like he's going to go ahead, he's already got a science vessel and some siege tanks and a command center prepped to grab this 6 o'clock base in the lower left-hand quadrant. If Kiko gets these 2 bases up, it's going to be very difficult from white to play out the game state, but he's going to have a long time to work with. He's got nearly 8,000 minerals banked, which means he can make a lot of mistakes before it's absolutely death knell time. But right now, with the recent swing in events, things are definitely looking a bit more Kiko favored. Looks like upper right has been cleared out. I would cancel this command center if I was Kiko. Looking at the number of these bases, see if he's going to be on top of it or if he's going to end up losing. Looks like, yeah, I don't think he's going to get the cancel off. Okay, there, I think last second got the cancel off right there. But command center's up bottom left, and it looks like the SCVs are already transferring their way. Siege tanks there as well. We do have Unarbiter out, and there is now an opportunity with... So, problem for Kiko though, 3 o'clock base is gone, natural expansion guns, main's gone. Which means he somehow needs to defend bottom left-hand corner with the bank he's got otherwise. Oh, probes getting... How do they always know? Just absolute incredible instinct. If any Terran has insight, let me know, because that, I mean, this isn't like a normal transfer timing right this second. Maybe you look back at your bases and you're like, well, my workers are gone, so now I know that their workers are gone. We do have a couple arbiters with a lot of energy. Thing is white's down to 1 base as well, so if you're looking back at the math, we got Kiko now with a resource advantage, and 1 base versus 1 base. Again, advantage Kiko. Upper right-hand nexus is getting grabbed. It looks like some stuff is being rebuilt. Kiko has and also a much larger worker count baseline for Kiko as well, although still just off the single base. And I don't think he's got all of his SCVs there. I'm seeing some lingering SCVs, a few lingering SCVs here and there, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of SCVs are stranded, mostly at the 3 o'clock base right this second. But Kiko also grabbing bottom left. So as far as the map cut in half, he's already got the map divided the way he wants to. And white hasn't really managed to get a solid recall on top of the factory lines to wipe the factories. He hasn't managed to delay into the upgrades, so we got level 3 weapons, level 2 armor, level 3 armor on the way, level 3 armor up, by the way. This is something new. I'm wondering if this is a white thing or this has become a more Protoss meta thing. We do have an Arbiter, was trying to make its way, but looks like EMP was there, and you got a lot of science vessels on patrol just hanging out here bottom left. So white able to get some workers top right, is still mining a decent amount of gas, which means he could transition in some high Templar. Maybe go, it looks like that is in fact happening. We'll see if we'll get some Templar drops in the midst of this as well. But going to try to take another crack here at the 3 o'clock. This really is, yeah, this isn't a territorial win right now. This is just honestly a kill field where a few siege tanks can get really, really good trades against Dragoons and Zealots and whatnot. That's for a command center and some turrets. Not a lot else, although there are a lot of SCVs left here. It looks like Kiko's going to cycle in underneath and engage the army that is bulked and stuck to the north. A few siege tanks getting wiped out. Man, actually, I take it back. A lot of these SCVs are now stranded and very likely going to die. And SCVs are valuable at this stage of things, now trying to defend themselves. So what would have been, honestly, not much of a territorial win is turning into a territorial win just because of the SCV losses. So now the worker counts are actually even. But is it worth it for White? Because now we have Kiko recognizing, okay, you expended a lot of troops at the 3 o'clock location. That means I have tactical advantage to potentially start moving out on the field. This is a weird loop-de-loop where you have Kiko making his way up the right-hand side and White with kind of a skeleton crew pushing underneath. Science facility's gone, by the way, which means that'll need to be rebuilt for some additional science vessels should they get picked off. And Kiko, I think, just is going to get the better end of it, mostly because these troops getting wiped out. Kiko halting, so not continuing to top right in the midst of this, and is able to cycle some SCVs here to the bottom left, about 8 SCVs. I think exactly 8 SCVs. Well, that count now shifting. Full control group of SCVs, now bottom left. And take that, turrets. But yeah, not a lot. I don't know that there was a lot gained there from White, although he does have the supply lead right this second. Mostly those SCV kills were significant, but still he's mining on 2 bases, so this is 2 base versus 2 base. The Arbiter that was there a minute ago moved back in. It looks like it got EMP'd an additional time, now gonna get wiped out by a turret. That's unfortunate. And White now with a Templar heavy Archon force making its way someplace. The question is where? Bottom left, obviously the juicy target. I feel like one big stasis here and some Zealots underneath, and that would be a danger time for Kiko. Unfortunately, we've got the vision where White does not, so he doesn't exactly see the vulnerable. He can't just patrol and look around to see the vulnerable spots on the map. And as I say that, I think, was that a recall bottom left or just some Dragoons walking their way this way? Looks like it was in fact a recall that I missed bottom left. It's hard to see the blue on blue, honestly, is my problem right this second, but able to shut down this base, and this is a big win for White. So Kiko briefly has this is a very, very, so usually they talk about insurmountable. This is a very surmountable amount of resources advantage for Kiko. And shutting down this bottom left-hand base, White now up 2 bases, mining to just the 1, has shut down bottom left, and he's got some troops that are going to be annoying to evict top left. And if Kiko starts dedicating troops to that bottom left-hand corner, we could see more vulnerability to the bottom left. We can basically we'll get more establishment top right. And vice versa, if Kiko starts making his way top right, we could see some vulnerability here at the bottom left. That is going to be Archon. That's going to be Arbiter dependent, though, and I don't see any Arbiters out in the field to really make that happen. But we know that, the viewers, White knows that, but Kiko doesn't necessarily know that. So is leaving his army unsieged, is just looking for movement. We have White making his way across the map with a lot of observers just to try to get eyes out on the field. Still a good science vessel count. When was that science facility rebuilt? I don't see a rebuilt science facility, so this is actually... Never mind, we got another science facility out here, so I think it was rebuilt bottom left. Observers getting picked off. Probes making their way top right. Cannon going to push back that Vulture. Both armies again remaxed. Now Kiko making his way top right to equalize the economic battle and take the lead. And White mostly out of position. He's got a lot of... It looks like just gateway units here. I guess you can call an Archon a gateway unit of sorts. Arbiter making its way up. Is he going to recall his own army? He could recall his own army to get a decent... Yeah, he's going to recall his own army. Oh, never mind. I thought he was going to recall top right, but did manage to... Again, it's hard to see on the mini-map. Was able to get the recall bottom left, so is executing the thing I was thinking about later, but man, great positioning of those siege tanks from Kiko here along that right-hand side to deal with that recall. So troops going to get wiped out. Is going to press into the top right, is going to wipe out that gateway, and certainly going to wipe out this Nexus. And even though Kiko down on workers here, I think I'm going to give him the advantage in the midst of this. Looks like we have some troops that are trying to push their way back through. These tanks, not in a great position to engage an army. You usually want the vertical spread, but they're decently spread out to deal with potential side storm, although I'm not seeing a lot of energy with these High Templar. Is this base going to get wiped out? I'm kind of curious where Kiko's attention's being drawn, because you have a lot of troops making the way up. He's still holding the high ground, and he just has a vulture getting pecked away at by the Arbiter there, top right. And I would be expecting the micro to kind of be a little bit in this field. It looks like white is going to just turn around and abandon this. Now that that Arbiter is being wiped out, we have another big army making its way on the field. Both players very starved for workers at this stage and the late stages of the match. But I think Kiko sealed it at this stage. He's down a sizable bank, but he's got a lot of troops here bottom left, although he does need to reposition. This could be a game-changing moment once again, where if white can get bottom left and wipe this out, with this 1 o'clock mining base being a little bit light on minerals, but with a sizable bank underneath, it might happen. But right now Kiko's got a massive supply lead. He still has this base running. He's taken out top right, so the conditions are starting to drop right now for white, and he's got to really kind of do a guerrilla style attack, and it looks like Kiko's going to just walk right in and take that top hand base, not even move his troops out of there. And as soon as he grabs this base, which is honestly a freebie for him, looks like he's starting to expand bottom left as well. Yeah, white's chances of winning this are starting to decline. He's 20 supply deficit. These tanks are very well spread out, so a stasis not really helping. This is a great bridge location for Kiko to fight on, so wiping out troops as they're making their way across. We have a few zealots getting occupied by vultures there to the north. The SCVs are going to defend themselves. Looks like there was a second stasis I missed underneath, catching a good amount of the siege tanks there. So the bottom left-hand base might get wiped out. That actually might take out the SCVs, so the attack might be there, but it looks like white gonna back up, and GG recognizing he's not gonna breach. There's still additional bases. He was running low on resources, and Kiko still just had too many troops. Intense macro game going all the way to the wire, but in this initial, can't say it all of a sudden, initial stage 1, round 1, Kiko will take the win over white, which means white will go on to play someone else who's 0-1. Just a reminder how the round robin is working to do rapid seeding to the next round. And Kiko will be 1-0 and will play a winner. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.